The hosts feel it would be a little unkind to present this podcast without just a word of friendly warning. We are about to unfold the story of Frankenstein, a man of science who sought to create a man after his own image without reckoning upon God. It is one of the strangest tales ever told. It deals with the two great mysteries of creation, life and death. I think it will thrill you. It may shock you. It might even horrify you. So if any of you feel that you do not care to subject your nerves to such a strain, now's your chance to. Well, we've warned you. Hello, and welcome once again to the Frankencast. I'm the mad scientist, Anthony Bowman. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm joined as always by...
the wood-paneled steel reinforced door that is Eric Velasquez. My pronouns are also he, him. How amazing is that? A steel, or a wood-paneled steel reinforced door.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's a choice right there. That's a 70s or early 80s choice.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, so we're kind of finally getting into some classic movies again. It's been a little while. We've been in all these new releases. And yeah,
okay, so Scream and Scream Again from 1970, right?
Yes. So this is from Amicus Productions, which was like kind of the lesser-known British horror studio behind Hammer, of course. But they had a lot of the same actors and a lot of the same... It's weird. They did a lot of gothic stuff. They were, I think, mostly known for anthology movies. And this is not an anthology. It is not gothic in any way. It's set in, modern day in the 70s. But it still has pretty much the three most classic British gothic horror actors all together.
Yeah, you can't get much better. Peter Cushing, Christopher Lee, and fucking...
Vincent Price.
Vincent Price, thank you. The main guy. The one, of course I forget the main one.
Yeah, Cushing and Lee.
The one who doesn't just serve a bit part, effectively.
Mm-hmm, yeah, it feels like they were just like, hey, can we get you out for the afternoon to film a couple
Peter
scenes?
Cushing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's rough, man. But, so, I mean, this is a political thriller, kind of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's like almost it's a spy movie a little bit. It's kind of, it feels maybe it's a little inspired by like James Bond stuff, I mean, it's not quite that spy, but it feels influenced by some of that. And yeah, it is way more of like a political thriller than a horror movie. And then it just kind of turns into a horror movie near the end.
Right. I mean, there are bits and pieces, sure, here and there, of course. There's a murder in the background, and it's like, okay, so I'm going to call them the Razatzis, because I don't know if they're supposed to be Eastern European or Nazis, because they have both of the iconographies there. So it's like, where the fuck do these guys come in? Then we've got some vampire killer, it's like, and then we've got random doctors everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Make this make sense,
so
Anthony.
long for it to like come together. When it finally does, it's like, oh, okay, I guess you had a plan, but it feels pretty messy for a good chunk of the movie.
Yeah, for a long period, I was like, okay, this is going to be one of those movies where, like, there's an A plot, it happens, the B plot's just there, and somehow they comment on the A plot,
Yeah.
But nope, this actually, it all joins together. Really impressive, actually.
Yeah.
But here's something that I really don't get or care about in the end. Spoiler alert. We get some nice jazz music, and then a dollar store Liam Neeson jogging. For like, what, a good 2-3 minutes?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. This character, like, he's never named, he's not real, but I feel like he's sort of the inspiration for the title, right? Because, like, so anyway, so we have him jogging through, like, I think London, and then that says the credits are going on, and then as soon as the credits end, he just, like, collapses, presumably heart attack or something related to running, and then he just wakes up in a hospital, and there's like this beautiful nurse who's never says a word, and she comes and checks on him. She feeds
Puts a tube
him
in
out
his
of
mouth.
Yeah, it's like some kind of, it's like a bag, like on an IV pole, but it has little like
like it looks like a rabbit feeder kind of thing on the end of it. And
Yeah.
she just like squeezes some liquid into his mouth, and then when she leaves, he like pulls back the blanket and screams because one of his legs has been amputated.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie though. That was a pretty effective scare in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And have you ever seen Necronomicon, that anthology?
Yes.
So one of the ones that really gets me is fucking what is it called, The Haunter in the Dark, where the cop lady pulls back the thing and her legs are gone. Yeah.
Yeah, it is definitely effective. But so of course he screams here, and then later we'll see him again.
He'll scream again.
He'll scream again. Yeah.
That's literally the only way this title could tie into this movie.
Right.
Like, what do you think it was actually called? Like, what did the writer call it?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, because it's one of those, like, it would be hard to title it because there's just so many weird, disconnected things happening.
Right. Oh, well, fair enough. We'll go with Scream and Scream again. So immediately after the guy, like, flips out, has a small flashback, reveals his legs are amputated, we immediately cut to what I call the Rosatzis. Like, they're either Russian, Nazis, they have some... It's a trident-looking symbol, but it's also vaguely swastika-ish.
Mm-hmm. It's on, like, red armbands and, you know, like a white circle with a black symbol in it. But they also have, like, signs that are in, like, the Russian Cyrillic alphabet. Yeah, so it's just, like, some sort of fascist fictional country, basically.
Right. We never get a name, I don't think. Mm-mm. We barely get that one of the main guys is named Conrad.
Yeah, I I thought they were saying comrade at first, continuing with the Russian stuff. I just wrote spy the whole time. That was what I named him because I had no idea until we got to the end.
I called him the Rosatzis, so, you know.
But yeah, so we have this Conrad character. He, like, pulls up in a car. You know, it's a checkpoint, you know, and they check under the car, they do all the stuff, and they have him get out. And it looks like he's in, like, at this point, he looks like just like a British guy. Like, he's not in the fascist uniform everyone else is. But then once he gets out, they're like, welcome home. So they, you know, it seems like he's affiliated with these people rather than the country he just left. And he sits down at the meeting with some sort of commanding officer. I also don't think he ever gets a name. And he's got some piece of tech that he's showing this commander. And he's like, I think we can change it and program it with the K718 formula or something.
Yeah, it was either K718 or K108. there's a K, there's a 1, and there's an 8, okay?
But the boss is like, wait, you shouldn't know that code. There's only 2 people that know it. It's me and, what was it, Benedict?
Yeah, Benedict.
So he calls Benedict on the phone and is like, come over, you know, something's going on.
Right.
But while they're waiting for that, our, like, sort of main guy touches him and he just dies.
Vulcan death grip. That's exactly what this is. Like, I don't know where this comes from, but he does the like, just grabs him on where the meat meets the collarbone, and that apparently kills him. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I didn't know we were so fragile.
Right. And so we cut away from that to a crime scene in, like, a public park. And we have, like, mainly, there's, like, 2 police officers that are walking through, and they're discussing this murder and, you know, plans for the investigation, basically, trying to figure out what to... There's a girl who was killed in the park.
Yeah. And they're talking about this very casually because, you know, cops, but apparently this was a very brutal murder. Mm-hmm. We're going to get more of that later.
Yeah, we'll get a lot of specifics here shortly.
But I do like how the lead inspector, like a reporter asked him, so do you think it's a murder? And the lead inspector is like, don't ask me a dumb question like that.
Yeah, it's very obviously a murder. Mm-hmm. So we go straight from that to these 2 police ring a doorbell. This guy answers, and they're like, we need to speak to Dr. Browning. The guy, I guess, is like a butler or some kind of housekeeper or something. Yeah. And he's really...
Well, Dr. Browning's not to be disturbed.
Yeah, he's like, he's really upset. And they're like, no, it's important. Go wake him up. We need to talk to him right away.
Right.
And so Dr. Browning comes in, and it is Vincent Price.
Vincent Price. Yay. I love it. The only guy from Missouri who could act like he's British and everyone believes him.
Yes, absolutely.
It's amazing.
And so the police are like, we need to ask you about Eileen Stevens. She worked for you, correct? And he's like, yeah, I hired her on recently.
Right. What do you know about her personal life? Did she have a boyfriend? Nope, I don't know anything about that.
Yeah.
I answered phones for her once.
And he's like, is she in trouble? And they're like, what makes you think that? And he's like, well, you woke me up in the middle of the night. I'm guessing something's going on. What did she do? And they're like, she didn't do anything. Somebody did something to her.
But how good of a liar is that? That he's like, what did she do? Mm-hmm. Like, immediately, she got into trouble. Clearly not that some trouble happened to her.
Mm-hmm. And so, they ultimately tell Browning that she was murdered. And he's like, says something about like, we're trying to figure out the man who did it. So we want to know about her boyfriend. And they're like, Browning's like, how do you know it was a man? And they're like, well, she wasn't just murdered.
Yeah. Implications. The implication.
Mm-hmm.
But I do also like how Browning says, it's perfectly terrible that she's been murdered. It's like, he of course it's Vincent Price. He's going to get some type of sadistic joy out of that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, he's really, really good in this. I mean, he's good in everything, but yeah, he's...
Right.
He's...
Can we resurrect him just to...
Man, I know. Give Hollywood ideas and they'll make a CGI one like they've already done of...
oh, God. I couldn't live with it. I would cry if they made an AI fucking Vincent Price.
Yeah. But yeah, so they go through kind of like asking him questions and stuff. He doesn't really give them much information. Once they say the extent of the murder, we cut to like the medical examiners looking over her body, and we got like an older veteran and like a newcomer who's a little green and a little like nervous about the whole process.
Right. He's like, I can't help but think, what were her last thoughts, right, when she was dying? And of course the old guy's like, don't think of her as a person. Think of her as just an object, because you'll be able to succeed at that point.
Yeah, his line, I wrote it down because it's so good. He says, the fastest transition in the world from human being to corpse. Best to not get the two confused.
Right.
Which, I mean, it's true, but that's pretty grim.
Right. Disassociate, boy. Just...
Yeah, I mean, to do that job, you kind of have to, right? I mean, I
guess so,
yeah.
But also, to a weird extent, that's also kind of the thesis of this movie. Is like get rid of your more human aspects.
Yeah, it kind of is.
We'll talk about it.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Yeah.
And so at that point, the police have arrived back at the station. They're kind of like asking like, people that they delegated things to. Like, did you look into this? Did you call this person?
Right.
Did you get a background on this?
We joked about this a couple weeks ago, but it's the very Sorkin walk kind of thing.
Yeah. And it's all like none of it. It's very surfacey. You don't really have to. These conversations don't really go anywhere. They're just to. Right. It's to set up that this is a police procedural, and these are police doing their procedures.
Right, and that they kind of have their shit together at least to a degree.
Yeah,
but so also, what is his name? Belliver. That's right, Belliver.
He's the main police officer.
Yeah, he's trying to eat a sandwich at this point, and he goes, it smells like cheese. Tastes like ham, but it's chicken. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure this bloody chicken wasn't killed; it just died of old age. That's a brilliant line.
Yeah,
amazing.
I like that. Yeah, some of those like fun like asides that have nothing to do with the plot are what really give a movie flavor, and this character, he's really good with that.
Yeah.
And ultimately, the two police officers sit down with the younger medical examiner, and he kind of like goes through their findings. Basically, he's like, yeah, she was hit in the head with some kind of blunt object, and like, oh, did that kill her? And he's like, no. She was also strangled. Did that kill her? No. She also had her throat slit.
Slit. That's the one that did it. But she also had 2 puncture wounds on her wrist and completely drained of blood. So she must have bled out.
Yeah. A little earlier when they were like walking, Belliver said something about like the hard thing about solving a sex crime is that there's no motive other than the sex. So you can't like, make connections and stuff with like people in their lives. But here he's like, oh, that doesn't even sound like it was about the sex then. This is just brutal. This sounds like a psycho. That's even worse. They have no motives, there's no path to follow. They just are killing because they want to kill.
Sorry to all you psychopaths that are actually just just lack empathy. That's all.
Yeah, you can definitely be a
Psychopath without being a killer.
Yeah. So at that point, we cut back to the jogger in the hospital. He's again, he's already in a panicked state because he just discovered one of his legs was amputated. The nurse comes back in, gives him more stuff out of the feeding tube.
It's kind of like, why did you do this to me?
Yeah, and when she leaves again, he pulls the sheet back, and now both of his legs have been amputated.
Right.
And
of course, that's when he screams again. Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm just saying, at this point, I'm trying to get the fuck out of there. You know what I mean?
Like, whatever it takes.
They're not going to stop, man.
Yeah, it's
but
only
we don't
going to
get
get
to
worse
see that.
from there.
Yeah. We don't see that part. We'll see something later, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So let's get back to the Rosazzis, watching the countryside with two hikers, or maybe they're trying to escape the border.
Yeah, like it's a couple. The guy's got like a big backpack on, so it seems like they must be trying to escape though, because the guy keeps looking over his shoulder as they're kind of like jogging through the field, and then they get gunned down by these fascists in like a jeep with machine guns.
Right.
Only the guy gets hit.
Curtain.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, they like shoot him like twice, once in the leg and like once in the, I don't know, vague part where they have the blood splatter.
Mm-hmm. But of course, then they kind of like they speed over in the jeep and they take them both in.
Right.
Later, she's in like a cell. Conrad comes in. They want to interrogate her. And they tell her right away,
your lover's dead.
Yeah, so like you better talk because we're not opposed to killing you as well.
Right. And I love how he tries to prove his point. He takes a bite of like fried chicken, and then he gets out like some snippers, and he like cuts the chicken bone. Mm-hmm. It's like, yep.
Yeah, and then he like takes it, like he puts it close to her hand, and then like because she's been like deadpan silent, and it looks like she's about to scream, and then we just cut away. Man,
I really hope we focus on this character eventually and see what happens to her.
Yeah. But it's a good cut because she's screaming, and then we just cut to a singer in a rock band also screaming at like a 70s swinging kind of hip club. And they're actually singing a song called "Scream and Scream Again."
By the way, do you want a little funny aside? Did you notice that the lead singer wasn't actually singing? Like he wasn't. He did a terrible lip syncing job too.
And the weird thing is, they're an actual band. I can't remember. They're called like the Amen Chorus or something.
Yeah,
Amen Corner. They like had a couple small hits in England. They never really made it over in America, but they presumably people watching this movie would have been like, oh, I know those guys.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's one of those things where like they're not good at acting like they're performing. That sometimes lip syncing is trickier than actually just performing.
Right.
But we'll get we see there's like two kind of young girls that are kind of dancing and talking to each other. They're looking for guys, and they specifically see this one guy that they're interested in.
Very model-like guy.
Mm-hmm. And when he leaves the dance floor, they like follow him, and it's like a blonde and a brunette, and the blonde like goes to him and she's very forward, like she's just like, hey, so when are you gonna buy me a drink? And he like gives her his drink that's like still half full or whatever, and she finishes it, and then he's like, you want to go for a drive? And she agrees, and they head out.
Yeah, no doubt. You could grate cheese on that guy's cheekbones for sure.
Yeah,
but let's go get a drink, right?
Yeah. So he's got like a really nice sports car. They're driving through the countryside.
She's playing with a shifter. No, seriously, she's playing with a shifter.
She like is very seductively stroking the gear shift. It's pretty great. And eventually, like he pulls over and they kind of start to kiss a little bit, and then she's like, "This isn't a good place. Like, let's go somewhere else." And he's pretty forceful, like that he wants to do something right here. So she jumps out of the car and starts running.
Should we do the essay warning?
Yeah. We had the girl earlier that we didn't really see anything. Here, this one, he's chasing her. He catches her several times and like pins her against walls.
Well, in the beginning, it seems like they're playing, right? Like she's playing hard to get, and then it's like, oh no, this is serious. Once he starts smashing her into the wall. Yeah,
there is a point where she's like, you don't have to grab or force me or something like that. And but I don't know if it's that he continues to be so forceful that she gets scared, or if she's using that as a ploy to kind of get him to let up so that she can get away.
Right. Maybe.
But yeah, either way, he keeps getting to her, slamming her against walls. It's pretty forceful. He kisses her a few times, and she does not want it. And then eventually they get into like a little like underground tunnel headway kind of thing. And that's where he like finally gets a hold of her and hits her several times against the wall, and she's bleeding, and it's pretty bad. They thankfully do cut away before it gets like we just see some blood on her face. That's pretty much the extent of it. But it's pretty easy to make the connection that the things that happened to the girl earlier likely are going to happen to this girl as well.
Yeah. Well, let's cut to Peter Cushing real quick. Surely he's a main character, even though he's a Rosazzi leader.
This is where things started to click, and I was like, oh, this like Conrad guy is like something. Like there's something interesting going on with him.
Right.
So yeah, like this Peter Cushing is the Major Benedict that that they mentioned earlier, and he's speaking to, I think they're like ministers, some kind of politicians. They're not.
Yeah.
They're not in the soldier kind of clothes. They're in like suits. Or the one guy is. The other one I think is like a nurse or something. She's like got glasses and a lab coat or something. But basically, like, so they give Benedict this report, and he's like, sometimes we have to torture a little bit. It's it's part
torture.
of the job. Yeah, a little bit. It's fine. But he was like,
listen,
looking at this
we have
report,
to brutalize people for the state. That's all.
Yeah, exactly. we need to. We have to keep moving forward, and we got to, find things out. But you're right. I looked at this report, and this is pretty brutal. Like this is beyond what we usually go for. So I'll talk to him. Yeah.
So we need to. Apparently this is the 5th year anniversary of their domination of the country, which that's fun. But anyway, also apparently we're in the stage where we no longer need to brutalize people, but we do need to make political friendships and keep everybody happy. Because if they find out we're doing, atrocities on a global scale,
right,
they might not like us. But I mean, that's worked for America, so I don't know.
Right. Yeah. But so the two others leave, Benedict, and so he's in his office by himself, and then in comes Conrad. And Benedict is like, you can't do this. Like this is too much. Like this is. I know you're trying to get information from them. I know that what's going on is important. You're trying to do stuff for the party or whatever. But like, you can't be doing this. It's a bad look.
Right. He even calls him corrupt and imbalanced.
And he says something about like. So I know you kind of were promoted quickly due to the sudden and mysterious death of.
Right.
So basically, Conrad killed the one dude, took his job, and now, was talking to Benedict, and Benedict's like, you're too dangerous. I'm gonna have to relieve you of duty. We're gonna have to find a new replacement.
Right, but of course, Conrad's is like, hey, let me explain myself, and maybe you'll understand. Vulcan death grip.
So he kills Cushing as well.
It
seems like this is his way to climb the corporate ladder. Is just murder everyone above him,
or the fascist ladder. I mean that tracks though, right?
Yeah, for real. And so after he kills him, we cut back to the police station again, and the police are talking to the brunette, the girl who went with our mysterious killer, her friend, and they're trying to get like a composite sketch kind of thing, but this girl's just an airhead and has no. She can't describe. She's just like, I mean, that nose is cute. I don't think that was his nose, but I like that nose. Let's keep that one on the drawing. And they're like, no, that's not what we're doing here. We're trying to figure out what that guy actually looked like, and
all guys look the same to this lady. Which, I mean, I guess good for her. I don't know. Is it bad? Is it good? Which one is it? I don't know.
Yeah. And from there we go back to our weird hospital again, and the guy in the bed now seems to be like catatonic. He's just like laying there with his eyes wide. The nurse comes in and checks on him again, and the camera's kind of at like a close-up on his face, or relatively close, and then when she leaves, it kind of pans back a little bit, and we see that now both of his arms are gone as well. Right. So
he's literally torsoed.
Yeah, slowly just disassembling this guy.
Which, I feel like you could have done this quicker and, like, more humane, if that was the goal.
Yeah.
Just put him under and disassemble him that way.
Right, yeah. It's unless they're trying to preserve the parts until right when they need them, or they're doing it for, like, maximum cruelty. There's no other reason to do it this way. And then we cut to...
By the way, that's the name of my next album. Maximum Cruelty.
So yeah, we cut to this. No, it's good. Where we cut to this room that's like a bunch of new people, and primarily we've got Christopher Lee here. I'm guessing this is some sort of like defense committee of some kind. Like, it's never really spelled out who these people are.
Right. He almost seems like what's called the PM, basically like a senator in Britain. Basically, like, he's a shot caller for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And they're kind of talking, like, they're discussing spy planes, and he's like, you know, this process isn't working. He gets a phone call, but he's talking to somebody higher up because he keeps saying, "Yes, sir. Thank you, sir." And he gets off the phone and he's like, you know, this plane that you all have been working on, it's supposed to self-destruct and
kill the pilot.
Kill the pilot. So
what the fuck?
It's a spy plane that is supposed to erase all tracks if it's, you know, shot down or something. But he's like, it didn't work. So now somebody has one of our pilots. Right. So, you know, now we have that to worry about, that, you know, they're being interrogated.
And who would have gotten this guy? Of course, it's the Rosazzis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll like that. We cut right to that, to our you know, to Benedict, who is talking to the, or, you know,
Conrads.
Conrads. And
Benedict's dead, man.
yeah, right. No, Conrads is now in Benedict's job, talking to like another soldier who's taking care of this pilot who had some injuries, and they've got him under with morphine, and he's like, we're going to want to get information from him, so don't leave him sedated too long.
Right.
And then we go back to the police station. The police are talking to the young medical examiner again about
who's scrubbing himself profusely.
Mm-hmm. And they're like, yeah, it never washes off. Like, the stuff that you're dealing with, it's going to stick with you for good. Yeah, I think it's a combination of, like, metaphorically you're going to be affected by this, and literally you're probably going to smell like, you know, morgue chemicals for the rest of your life. Yeah. But he lets them know that this girl was also punctured in the wrists and drained of blood. And punctured in the wrists, and she had no blood in her body, and the main Belliver is like, well, so the first girl, she was in the park, she was drained of blood, we assumed the blood soaked into the ground, but this Makes girl sense. Was on concrete, and she was not in a pool of blood. Right. And the medical examiner was like, so where did the blood go? And he was like, that's a good question. That's what I'm thinking. I'm
not saying it's a vampire. Probably dealing with vampires now.
Right. So the police are like, well, what do we do? We still don't have a motive. We don't know how to, like, figure out. Okay, well, we do happen to have one attractive young policewoman on the force.
And we know he likes to go to clubs, so...
Yeah, let's dress her up in some club wear and send her out.
Right. And by the way, one of the guys who suggested this, not her boyfriend. Apparently her boyfriend is on the force. And he doesn't like it when the other guy starts getting a little handsy with miking up his girlfriend.
Yeah, they keep having to, like, pull her shirt up and, like, reach down her, like, she's got, like, pants. And she's like, well, I could do that. And they're like, no, let me help. We got to get it just right. And these guys both just want to, like, feel her up.
Yeah.
But once they get to the club, I mean, pretty much right away, the like murder guy bumps into her and very persistently keeps asking her for a drink, and she's like, she plays coy, like she keeps like walking on, she'll smile at him but then walk off, and he's like, no, but seriously, like, how about that drink? She's like, all right, fine, let's go for a ride.
Well, she's got the beat. She's probably like, this is the creep. This is the guy.
Yeah, this guy is too persistent to just be a normal dude.
Right.
And, you know, so once they're driving, he's like, where would you like to go? And she's like, oh, it's pretty late. I need to get home. I've got work in the morning. And he's like, okay, I'll drive you home. We can have a drink there. But first, let's take a shortcut through the woods. Mm-hmm. And she's like, sure, fine. And, of course, he parks again and, you know, is trying to kiss her and everything. But, of course, she's wired. Her, you know, other officers have followed in another car and are listening from a distance.
Her boyfriend's like, oh, fuck, this sucks.
Yeah, and then, like, they can hear them talking, but then there's a point where it gets quiet, and they're like, oh, you know, they're kissing now. And the boyfriend wants to rush in, and they're like, no, let her have some fun. It's fine.
Funny story, they're not kissing. He's absolutely choking the shit out of her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then they start to hear this kind of weird, like, gargling sound, and they're like, no, what is that?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
So they...
Fuck this noise.
Yeah, they rush to get to her, and we see that the killer has bitten her wrist and is drinking her blood, of course. And when they
So he's our Dracula, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then when they get to him, like, they pull him off of her, and he's, like, kind of, like, stumbling around. Like, he seems drunk, almost.
Drunk. Yeah.
And she's kind of, like, partially unconscious from being drained of blood.
Yeah.
So they kind of, like, carry her away, and they're trying to, like, you know, restrain the guy. And as soon as they get handcuffs out, he, like, suddenly gets really alert and, like, you know, tries to break free. He, like, knocks some of the cops over and then just runs away.
Yeah, he beats the shit out of 3 cops with, like, 3 swipes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, yeah, he jumps in his car, speeds off, and they, you know, some of the police get in the car and try to follow him, and then they realize that in the commotion, one of the girl's shoes fell off, and that just happens to be where their tracking device was. So they're able to track him and keep up with him, and we end up with a really lengthy, like, high-speed car chase. Like, you can tell this movie was made in the 70s. It's really just reveling in, like, the, you know, like,
the high speed
or whatever. Like, yeah, just doing those kind of classic high-speed chase things.
I mean, right now it would look kind of boring, but I'm sure for the time it was really exciting.
Yeah, it doesn't look like Fast and the Furious or anything, but, you know, we do have a couple little car wrecks and, you know, some tight turns and everything. And eventually, like, he gets out, like, he gets somewhere that's like a quarry or something, and he runs into, like, this processing plant of some kind of, like, mill for, like, crushing up stone or something.
Yeah. It looks like it may be for concrete or something like that.
Yeah. And so he runs inside, and they follow him. A couple times they catch up to him, he fights them off, and then continues to run.
Yeah. It's pretty much the cycle, right?
Mm-hmm. And so then,
but then they get into a hill or mountain, right?
Mm-hmm. And it's like,
but yeah,
like, he's backed up against a mountain, and he, like, climbs up, like, the foothill part. That's
well, they're like, you're done, right? They're like, you can't go anywhere now. But he's like, fuck you, and runs up the foothill. But he's running really fucking good and really fast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, this is obviously superhuman. You would not be able to run, like, unless you are a, like, Olympic level athlete, you are not running the way this guy is running.
Mm-hmm. And then even, like, so it's like there's, like, a kind of gravel portion that's you know, it's steep but not super steep. But then beyond that is just, like, a stone cliff face, you know, and he starts, like, climbing up that.
Yeah. Just like he's almost walking up. Like, I'm impressed. Whoever they got to do the climb, like, good for that person, because holy shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it looks really good. And then, you know, of course, eventually he does get to where he can't go any further and slips and falls down. And, you know, he's, like, he seems in rough shape. He's unconscious.
Well, it would kill a normal person, right?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And then the medical examiner's with them, and he's like, "Oh, he's just stunned. He's fine, actually." Right. And they're like, that's he shouldn't just be stunned. But if he is, okay, well then let's handcuff him to the bumper of one of the cars because we've got to, he's obviously very strong. He's beaten up multiple officers at this point.
Right. And let's see if he can get out of this, Sonny Jim.
Yeah. So while he's cuffed, everyone leaves him and goes over to a police car and gets on the radio to like call dispatch and tell them what's going on. And while they're completely not paying attention to him, he manages to get away. We don't really see what happens. He's just like fumbling with the handcuffs, and suddenly he takes off running again.
Presumably he tore off the handcuffs, right?
Yeah. So some of the cops start chasing after him, and then one of the other ones is like, "How did he break those cuffs? Those were like reinforced steel cuffs. Those are good cuffs." And they walk over and
turns out he didn't.
Yep, he didn't break the cuffs. He tore his own hand off.
That's fucking metal, man.
Right.
Shit.
Yeah, and then we see him running, and now one of his shirt sleeves is just bloody and no hand sticking out of it.
So we get this for a good solid a couple minutes.
Mm-hmm. Continues the pursuit, the chasing, and one thing that I was like, you can tell this movie's British because never did anybody try to shoot that guy. No cop tried to pull a gun. I don't think even any of them had guns because England. But yeah.
Right. In America, that guy would have been filled with lead. They'd be like, we're not running. Fuck this guy.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, I mean, especially after all the times that he had, hit officers. Yeah, there's no way he made it out of that.
No.
But eventually, he runs to, this, farm, and there's, a barn behind it, and he runs into the barn. They follow after him, and when they get there, he's kind of standing near the back, and he's lifted up this panel in the floor, and it's full of liquid, and he just dives in, and
it's he's trying to swim out now. He's tried running and driving.
Yeah, and Belliver tells the younger officer with him, he's like, that's got to be just a tank. Just reach in there and see if you can pull him out. And the guy sticks his hand in there, and he's like, "Oh fuck, that's acid!"
Right, he burns his fucking hand.
Yeah, he's in bad shape, so they have to take him.
Congratulations on the early disability.
Yeah, right. So they're like, okay, well, I guess this guy jumped full body into a vat of acid. He is gone. Case closed, I guess, right? They seem pretty satisfied. But then suddenly someone else walks into the barn. It's Dr. Browning, Vincent Price. He's just, why is he here? That's weird.
Right.
And then we just immediately cut to his house. It turns out this is his property. That's his barn. So the cops are like, why did you have a vat of acid in your barn? And he's like, I do experiments with various bacteria growths and stuff, and when I'm done,
you gotta kill that shit some way, right?
Yeah. So that makes sense. And they're like, something weird's going. So this guy's first victim worked for you, and then when we were chasing him, he seemed to come straight here, and he knew that vat was there. So he seems to have some kind of connection to this, and I think Browning's explanation is maybe he was dating the girl that worked for me, and maybe she told him about the barn, or maybe they went back there to make out or something.
And a bunch of other stuff that's clearly just trying to cover his own ass.
Yeah. But they're like, but if he knew it was acid, why did he jump in acid? And he's like, well, sometimes these, psychotic people, maybe he knew he was bad, and he knew what he was doing was wrong, and he wanted to be punished for it, but he couldn't find a way to do that. And so this seemed to him like a way to pay for what he had done.
To suffer a punishment equal to the act, I believe is what he says.
Yeah. And, so they're like, okay, well, we're going to continue our investigation. At least we still have his hand. And Browning is not, like you said, he's not happy to know that there was a hand left behind. So at this, if you hadn't caught on, Vincent Price being in a movie, he's almost the villain anyway. But if you hadn't caught on, the face he makes here, it's he knows more than he's letting on. And, obviously is concerned that the police have this bit of evidence.
He may not be the main villain, but he's definitely somewhere involved, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it turns out the Sorrel and the older doctor have discovered the hand. It's not a normal human hand.
Yeah, they're saying that there's like synthetic things that are man-made,
Right.
but the
Tendons and muscles specifically.
Yeah, but the flesh is real human flesh over top of it. And obviously Belliver's like, well, that's really strange. Like, how could that be? And they're like, we don't know. We need better equipment. And he's like, you can have whatever you want. Like, we need to get to the bottom of this. He's like,
I wanted to
but
make
also
a joke of organic skin over a metal chassis. Sorry for Terminator.
And Belliver's like, whenever you all leave tonight, though, put that hand on lockdown, because if it's got synthetic materials, who's to say it's not going to just get up and walk away?
Right. So immediately the silent nurse comes in.
Yeah, they don't listen to him at all. Like, it's nighttime. The hand is just
It's on
sitting.
a podium.
It's like asking to be taken. Like,
It's not behind a storage locker. It's not, locked away at all.
yeah. I almost expected that it was going to just turn into, like, Thing from the Addams Family
Right.
and crawl away. But nope. We get our attractive silent nurse. She comes in with, like, a leather doctor bag, and stuffs it in there. And then, like, some other, nurse or some, a person that works there comes out and is like, what are you doing? You're not supposed to be in here.
She gets the bitch slap from hell.
Just completely knocked out, and silent nurse just strolls out of there like it's nothing. Like, she isn't even afraid at all. Then we cut back to our weird fascist country, where the government official who was previously talking to Benedek is now talking to Conrads, and is like, I know you have this captured pilot from Britain. Like, we want to know what he has to say. We want information from him. Conrads is kind of like, yeah, we'll get stuff from him. It's, I'll follow up with you later, but you can go ahead and leave for now. It's going to take a little bit.
Yeah, have a safe journey back.
Yeah, so the official gets in his car and drives up to the same checkpoint we saw at the beginning of the movie. Same guard is like, let me see your papers. He looks through them and he's like, you don't have the right credentials. Something wasn't filled out correctly. The guy's like, I come through here all the time. You know me. I'm in a hurry. And they're like, nope, step out of the car, sir.
Right, so the guy knows what's up. He's like, oh, fuck. They're going to get me.
So he tries to speed off and, like, immediately loses control, crashes. The car explodes.
I mean, I'm sure all the bullets didn't help.
Yeah, right. So he is gone, and so as soon as the car explodes, the guard, like, walks over to, like, a security camera and salutes, and we see Conrads in his office watching on the monitor. So,
right.
He definitely put this in motion. It's seems to be another death in his, climb up the ladder.
Right. No shit. This dude could teach Peter Baelish a couple things, right?
Right, yeah. So then we go back to a new crime scene. Belliver and some of the other police are walking around.
Well, it's not a new crime scene. It's the one with the hand. The lady who was trying to stop the silent nurse. This is her.
Oh, I did not even realize it was her. Oh, wow,
Yeah.
okay.
When she slapped her, she slapped her so hard it broke her spine.
Okay. Yeah, I did not make that connection. But so in addition to her being killed, her hand is missing.
No, it's the hand.
Oh, this makes so much more sense to me. I thought they were saying that this dead girl had her hand removed, and I was like,
Right.
oh,
No.
they're stealing more parts. Okay.
I mean, that would be cool, though.
This makes a lot, because I was equating it with, like, the other dude, the dude
Right.
in the in the hospital bed, that, like, his parts were being taken, and I was like, oh,
No, I like yours
okay.
better. We'll go with
Gotcha.
that.
Well, this makes a little bit more sense, though.
Right.
Yeah, so the hand is missing. So it seems, they're like, so there's another murder now. Now the hand's missing.
Calls him
and
a
they're kind of
another supernormal maniac, which I love that.
yeah,
Super normal.
Right. It's like basically the same thing as extraordinary,
Yeah.
but it has a nice ring to it. But the police are kind of arguing because, like, basically they want the case to be closed, and they're like, now this is a new wrinkle in the process, because if the one guy is dissolved in acid, there can't be another guy, right? Like, and they're not really sure how to handle that. The medical examiner is, like, really on it. He's like, we need to keep investigating Browning. It's got to be something with Browning. And Belliver's like, leave Browning alone. Like, I've been told by higher ups that he not only we did a background check. He came through clean, but he also has a government contract, and I've been told that we need to leave him alone. Like, this is a command from up high.
Belliver knows what's up. He's like, yeah, there's clearly something up with him, but we can't touch him because he's literally above suspicion, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We're not to bother him ever again.
But the medical examiner, he's not buying it. So we cut to him in a car with the female officer, the bait from the club previously.
It's good that she's doing better now.
Yeah, she seems okay.
Yeah.
And, basically, like, he wanted to take a police officer with him, but the guys are all kind of towing the line. And so she's on board, and he's like, okay. They go out to Browning's, and he's going to go into the barn, get a sample of the acid, see what else he can find, and he tells her, stay in the car. If anything suspicious happens, honk, and I'll come running.
Oh, well, he also says call the cops, which, that's funny.
Yeah. And so he goes into the barn, he lifts up the hatch, and that tank is
empty.
Totally empty, cleaned out, looks, pristine. So he's like, that's weird.
Right. All of a sudden, car horn honking.
Mm-hmm. So he goes running out, and the car's gone. The police officer as well. Like, it was just nobody.
Well, that's rude as shit. Where do you think she went?
yeah, that's strange. So,
just leaving a guy there? Come on.
Right. Yeah. So then we cut back to Fremont, the PM, Christopher Lee.
He's having a secret meeting with Conrads.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there was we did have a little brief scene earlier where he got a call from Conrads that was like, basically, if you know what's good for you, meet me at the Trafalgar Square.
I'm here, maybe we could get together and have a little bite to eat, something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do some conspiracy,
Exactly, right. So yeah, at this point they're meeting, and Conrads is like, so I know you're missing a pilot, and I know where he is. Fremont is like, yeah, I mean, we would like that pilot back. And he's like, yeah, I feel like it's going to be a bad, incident for both of our countries if it comes to light that we have your pilot. So I want to give him back, but I'm going to need something in return.
Yeah.
And Freeman's like, what do you want? And he's like, well, it's just a little something. I'd like to see all of your files and evidence on...
He says, it's going to sound weird, and I'm not going to explain it, but give me all your evidence.
Yeah, all the evidence and all of the files on the vampire killer. Yeah. So apparently the public has gotten wind of these killings, and the media has named it the vampire killer.
Mm-hmm.
Cut back to the hospital with the silent nurse, that hospital room. But now
the cop lady's in there.
Yeah, she's strapped down on the gurney instead of the other guy.
This doesn't end well for anyone.
Right, yeah. She wakes up and is like tied down and is kind of panicking. The nurse comes in and checks on her. And then we cut back to Fremont taking Conrads to the police station to look at the evidence.
Right. Which that's fun. And basically Conrads' story is that his name is Professor White, I believe, or Dr. White. And he's just there to look at the evidence. Just there to look at it. Nothing else.
Yeah, and Belliver's like, sure, I can take you to this other room. You can take a look at it. And Conrads is like, no, I'm going to be taking this. And he's like, no, it doesn't leave the station. You can look at it all you want, but you got to go into this room and look at it there. And he's like, okay, sure, fine. Yeah, and then of course
how about we go look at the evidence in the other room while you get your back's turned. Look at Death Grip.
Right. Yep. So now Belliver, our sort of seemingly main character in this, is dead.
Yeah, oh no, I liked him.
Yeah, we cut back to the medical examiner who is, or he makes a call and is like, I need help. Like I'm out at Browning's, and they're like, you shouldn't be at Browning's, and he's like, yeah, but just put Belliver on the phone, and they're like, we can't. Well, he's dead.
Yeah. Dun dun dun.
So the medical examiner guy instead decides, I'm going to break into Browning's house and look around. Something weird's going on here.
I'll do cop shit if the cops won't, right?
Yeah. So it kind of, at this point, it feels like it's transitioning to he's now the hero of this instead of Belliver.
You ever get a feeling like something bad's going to happen to just every main character? I had it pretty hard right here.
Yeah. So he's like wandering through the house, and it's like, you're waiting for Vincent Price to pop out. He goes into like his office, and then he does hear, I think, a door open somewhere else in the house. So he kind of like, there's another little door in the corner. He ducks through and goes behind a tapestry, and that tapestry turns out to have a door behind it, leading to a very hip, modern 70s mad scientist lab.
I mean, this is probably pretty modern even up until the 80s, right?
Mm-hmm. It's got like a bunch of cameras CCTV. With like, a lot of monitors where you can like keep an eye on what's going on. He walks through all of that, and there's a room that has a bunch of like refrigerated doors. And
this is when he walks through the wood-paneled, steel-reinforced door. Yeah.
Yes.
Love it.
Yeah, it's so good. But each one of these doors, he opens them, and there's just a single body part in it. There's an arm in one. There's a leg. Finally, he gets to one that has the head of the jogger. So they eventually did fully disassemble that dude.
Like, at what point were they like, let's decapitate him at this point, Like, what did they take? I really don't want to know, but I kind of want to know.
So at that point, he sees the head, and then he hears a voice behind him. It's Browning. And Browning's like, I bet you're very curious. As you've been, investigating these killings, you've probably seen some strange things you couldn't explain. And you want to figure out what's going on. And it just so happens, I can explain it all. I can tell you everything. You'll be so full of new knowledge. And, that's catnip to this guy. Like, he's like, yes, I'm... I'm trying to do the good thing, but I also am very curious. That's definitely a big motivation.
This is the apple in the Garden of Eden, right?
Mm-hmm.
The knowledge. But also he notes, I bet also with the acid that you were looking for earlier, I kind of moved it to right here. You didn't notice it when you walked in, but it's like right beside the door. Yeah. And it's also, just remember, the acid's right here, okay? Just remember that. All right.
Yeah.
It'll be used later. Chekhov's acid bath.
Exactly. 100%, yeah. And he's like, okay, come. So he's showing off the lab. He talks about all the equipment, and he's like, I'm working. It's an ongoing search for human perfection. I've
created my activator and fabricator combo utility.
Yeah.
It sounds like bullshit, and it is, but...
he says, it sounds like science fiction, but I assure you, it is science fact. And then he goes over to there's like a little slab with a sheet. He pulls the sheet back. There's a naked woman on the table. The medical examiner guy is like, how long has she been dead? Like, she seems really well preserved.
Funny story. She's never really been alive.
Yeah, she's a synthetic composite. I built her piece by piece.
Like the vampire killer.
Yeah, just like Keith. This ominous killer. His name is Keith. It just seems... And he's like, Keith was my first attempt, and it didn't turn out well, but she's going to be better. Well,
he's the first one with functioning brain patterns?
Yeah, he was like, I did make a few before Keith, but they were basically robots. Like, Keith had autonomy. And he's like, we'll revive her. I'll show you. Come with me. So they bring the girl into the next room where the silent nurse is. So it wasn't hard to guess that she was involved, but I think this is the first time we see that silent nurse and Dr. Browning are in the same space. So while they're having that conversation, we also get a little cutaway where she injects the female police officer with something. So then she rolls her in on a gurney. So we've got the creation and this unconscious police officer side by side on slabs.
Right. Browning's ominously prepping Sorrel for the surgery.
Mm-hmm. And he's like, this is just like a mad scientist's dream. You just want to defy God. I've heard all this nonsense before. It never goes anywhere. Mm-hmm. And Browning is like, haven't you been paying attention to the times? God is dying all over the world. Man created him, and we don't need him anymore. Right. He was like, the fact of the matter is, man is God now, and really, we always were.
Yeah, well, I mean, fair. But he also busts out the fact that they got a little science cabal. They're like, in 20 years' time, we're going to be ready to take over the world, baby.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he like this. There's a little bit of like eco-terrorism kind of stuff here, where he's like, man is kind of driving us towards extinction. You know, we're not treating the Earth well, but if we kind of infiltrate all of humanity with new creations, we can kind of take over things. You know, obviously we've got this fascist country that we're seeing. This is a parallel here. They're trying to do like a fascistic takeover of the world to
Ubermensch and all that shit.
Yeah, and this is somehow going to save the world. He definitely implies that like there's a lot of this going on all over the world that people don't know about. I'm just one person in a vast machine.
Right. He waxes about who should get organs, poor people or people who aren't poor.
Right.
Well, he says poets and great thinkers, but come on.
Yeah.
We know what he means.
The police officer, they're going to use her brain in the creation, so they're getting ready to like cut her head open. Sorrels, is that his name? I just keep calling him medical examiner.
Yeah.
He like gets a scalpel and like holds it up to Browning's throat and is like kind of trying to hold him hostage, like
Tell
let
him
her
to
go.
stop. And so the Browning's like, no, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, he easily breaks free and like kind of knocks Sorrels down.
Yeah, he's like really strong.
Mm-hmm. And he's like
inhumanly strong.
Yeah, and Sorrels is like, wait, but... And he's like, yeah, I'm a composite too. So is she. So is he. There's like another guy there that's just kind of standing there.
So to interrupt this, wait a fucking second. If he's a composite, how did he create himself when he said that Keith was his first creation? Was Keith his first creation?
Yeah, I'm guessing that like somebody created him and then like seeded him out, like go out into the world and make more
of your kind.
Yeah, it's kind of like be fruitful and multiply. And so he's kind of
be fruitful and make composites.
Yeah. Then now they've got Sorrels down and they're proceeding with the surgery.
Right, but they don't kill him. They're like, no, you're gonna watch this shit.
Mm-hmm. But then suddenly they see on a monitor that Conrads has walked into the house. He's now here. Yeah. We're finally getting our plot lines combined.
There's our storylines.
Yeah, and Browning's like, go get him, stop him, whatever he's doing. And while that's going on,
I love Sorrel. Like, I love this guy because he just when they built him, they didn't put in the quit,
Yeah.
Because he grabs another knife and stabs the nurse, and she's just like, that was annoying.
Right. Yeah, no effect at all. And I think he even pulls it out and then tries to stab Browning, and same thing, nothing happens. Yeah. And at that point, Conrads walks in. He's like, you all should have dealt with Keith a lot sooner. Your lab has become a liability now. Too many people know about the vampire killer. It's even spread outside of your country. Like, it's on the news. People are talking about this. He takes the nurse and just throws her into the acid vat.
Right.
And
we got to destroy all this. We can't let any of it remain. Browning's
like, but she wasn't a liability. Like, we could have still used her. Conrads is like, no, you don't understand. You're all a liability. This whole operation is getting wiped. So they get into a fight, and of course they're both super strong, and they're like, this fight this is our Frankenstein meets the werewolf, basically. Like they're just wrecking house, just destroying the lab.
And I love how this is the one time that Conrads gets the death pinch off on Browning, and Browning's like, oh, you got me. Nope, psych, motherfucker! And just stands right back up and slaps the shit out of him.
Yeah, they're both super strong. But of course, Sorrels is like, now's my chance. He helps get the cop free, and they escape out of the lab during the commotion. Once they get outside, there's a car pulling up, and out steps Fremont. And he's like, you shouldn't have gotten mixed up in this. I knew everything that was going on here. It was under control. It was under observation.
You were supposed to stay. Yeah, you were supposed to stay put.
Yeah, but now that you're here, you all get in the car. I'll go take care of this. So he walks inside. Meanwhile, Browning has defeated Conrads and thrown him into the acid.
Yep.
And Fremont walks in, and Browning's
well, he's like, hey, you're finally here. Great. Turns out some of us are evil now, and we're corrupted, so we got to destroy all the corrupted bad ones.
Mm-hmm. And he's like, yeah, Conrads came from the other country or whatever, and I had to put him in there. I had to stop him, and Fremont's like, no, your whole situation is out of control. Like you can't go on. Like I agree with what Conrad's was doing basically. So
well, he basically says we're all corrupted. It's too late now.
Yeah. So he picks up Browning and throws him into the acid bath, and then walks outside, gets into the car, and Sorrells is like,
I love how Sorrells like, is it all over?
Yeah. And Fremont's like, it's only just beginning in the
dun, dun, dun.
intense Christopher Lee
Amazing.
voice.
Right.
Yeah.
So good. That end is pretty fucking good though.
It really is, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and of course the greatest evil of all was politicians. So,
yeah.
There you go.
This movie it reminded me a lot of the Dean Koontz Frankenstein. Like this whole like plan to take over the world and seed it with all these creations and everything.
With your perfect creations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it had similar, and that Dean Koontz Victor felt very fascist as well.
Yeah.
So
well, he hobnobbed with Nazis, so
yeah,
or Yazis,
but yeah,
I don't know.
But of course, obviously, this way predated the Dean Koontz thing. I don't know if it was an inspiration to him at all or not, but
or he ripped it off.
Right? Yeah, it definitely has similar vibes. Although this is, like we said at the beginning, this is. It's kind of messy, it's like it can't decide if it wants to be a spy movie or a horror movie or a thriller.
Or police procedural.
Mm-hmm. There's some, like the police procedural and like there's a little bit of like a giallo quality to it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things going on, and I would say it pulls it off. Like I feel like most cases, this many disparate elements lumped together would just be a disaster, and it just manages to stick the landing. Like it works. Like it's not the best thing we've watched, but it's way better than it has any right to be, I will say.
I feel like everyone involved yes-anded a little too hard, but somehow it worked out in the end. Mm-hmm. They're like, we'll do this and this and this. Yeah, all right. Nobody ever said no, but yeah, I mean. Yeah, so the fact that it ended in a cohesive fucking, it has a sensible ending, which is a weird thing to say about this movie. That's fucking mastercraft.
Yeah, because for a little bit, as I was, I haven't seen this before, and for a little bit I was thinking, is this one of those kind of movies where, they ended up with two half-finished movies and they tried to fit it into one? But no,
that's what I was talking about earlier.
Yeah, there's definitely... I've seen a few of those, and, they're always fun because they're just disasters.
So bonkers.
But yeah, no, this all comes together well. And I think the idea here, if I had to guess, is I think Amicus probably wasn't doing well, and they were like, we need to stop being gothic. We need to be more modern. We need to do something fresh and hip. Let's get a rock band. Let's do a James Bond. Let's let's do all these things. And they sort of managed to pull it off. They still went under a few years after this.
It definitely didn't save them, but
it
helped them keep going.
As a little sidebar, someone recently purchased Amicus from the original owners, and they're coming back. They have a new movie coming out soon. I'm interested, or they're in production or whatever, and I'm very curious. Amicus, they had a really interesting vibe, and it sounds like the people, there's a Kickstarter and stuff, but it sounds like the people that are doing it are very passionate about doing Amicus the way it was originally. So it looks fun.
And I think nowadays that kind of stuff works, right? They did the Hammer horror had its revival for a little bit, and I think it's still going, but
yeah, they're not cranking things out the way they did back in the heyday, but they still put out stuff every now and then. So yeah, hopefully it'll work the same way, because more horror is always a good thing.
Fair enough. All right, anything else we got to say about it?
Yeah, I think that's it for this one. It's fairly straightforward in its messiness.
Yeah, I mean, obviously check it out. This one's where you've got Peter Cushing, you've got Vincent Price, you've got Christopher Lee. All of them are doing pretty good. We could use more Cushing though.
Yeah, he really only gets the one scene.
They
but yeah, you got it's basically a movie where you got a vampire, you got a Frankenstein. He's the same guy.
Right.
There's Nazis. There's something for everybody.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. If you're into your giallo, there it is. You've got a couple scenes like that. Fair enough. All right, Anthony. Well, we've started screaming. I scream, you scream, we all scream for screaming, I guess. Let's carry on screaming next week.
Yeah. So I like.
Come on, I get a 10 out of 10 for that, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
And that's. We kind of group things as we, kind of pair things up, trying to make little mini series as we go. And I literally just put these two next to each other because I thought it was funny to go from Scream and Scream Again to Carry On Screaming.
I'd say you're correct.
This is also another British movie, probably from around the same time. And this is a movie I've never seen, but it's been like on my list to watch for like 10 years, and I just have not gotten around to it. So the only thing I know about it is there's a series of British comedies that each one is kind of like a standalone movie that it focuses on a different genre, and they're all called Carry On something, and Carry On Screaming is their one horror entry. The other ones I don't know, there's like an army one or whatever, various sort of like silly parody type movies. And for some reason,
where the Keep Calm, Carry On thing came from?
I would bet the Keep Calm and Carry On inspired the Carry On movies. I'm not sure which came first. But it's weird. Like they're very big in England, and they never really picked up outside of England. Like I literally only ever heard about this movie when I was in England. Someone was talking to me about it. But it's it's strange. A lot of British comedy does. The Office made its way over here. Monty Python, like America does love its British comedy, but for some reason these never picked up. So maybe there's a reason for that. It might be like super dry British stuff that makes no sense to us. We'll find out.
All I know is that the third Doctor Who's in this, so let's check it out. John Pertwee.
Yes, all right, I'm in.
Anthony, where can they find us?
You can find us on all the socials at The Frankencast. You can email us at thefrankencast@gmail.com. You can also find us over on YouTube. And of course, you can find us at patreon.com/thefrankencast, where we have finally finished the old Munsters and started the Munsters from the 80s, which I guess we should admit is also the old Munsters at this point.
Right. But it's called Munsters Today, Anthony. How could it be the old Munsters if it's today?
Yeah.
But
we just started that. It's interesting. We're having fun there, and you can join us now and take the journey with us.
Absolutely. Well, if that's all there is, to be continued.
Looks like you survived another episode. The Frankencast is a production of FCR Media. It's hosted by Anthony Bowman and Eric Velasquez. Follow us on Twitter at The Frankencast, or send us a letter at thefrankencast@gmail.com. Our cover art is by Amanda Keller. You can find her at Keller Illustrations on Instagram. Our theme music is by Vivek Abhishek. Thanks for listening.